Good evening, everyone. It's around 6 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is John Martoreno, and I'm the County Administrator for Washington County. And on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners and County staff, I'd like to welcome you all here this evening and thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Year 23 Public Budget and Property Tax Rate hearing. I'd like to first introduce the Board of County Commissioners, starting with President Jeff Klein. Over here. Vice President Terry Baker. Commissioner Charlie Burkett. Commissioner Wayne Kiefer. And Commissioner Randy Wagner. If you're interested in providing public comment this evening, I hope you had an opportunity to sign up at the table out in the lobby. If you want to speak this evening and you haven't had that chance to do so, I would ask that you make your way to the lobby, see Michelle, and sign up to speak. County staff has prepared an overview of the proposed fiscal year 23 budget and the proposed property tax rate. Following the presentation, the county commissioners will come up on stage and take their seats and receive your public comment. So I call your attention to the screen for the staff's presentation.
Good evening. The following is an overview of the proposed fiscal year 23 budget and the proposed fiscal year 23 tax rates. Copies of the Citizens Guide to the Budget are available in the lobby this evening and may also be found on the county's website, www.washco-md.net. This Citizens Guide to the Budget contains a budget overview, a general fund summary, a debt summary, and expenditures by function, among other items. The county provides a variety of services, from law enforcement, emergency services, and emergency management, to planning and zoning, permits and inspections, highways, parks and recreation, transit, and environmental management, to name just a few. The needs of the citizens of Washington County are at the forefront of all that we do at county government. Recognizing these needs is the driving force behind our budgetary decision making. County government focuses on 5 priority areas: education, public safety, economic development, human services, and infrastructure. Staff and county officials concentrate on these priority areas during the budgetary process as we seek to responsibly allocate county funds. For fiscal year 23, the county commissioners are proposing a real property tax decrease from 94.8 cents per $100 of assessed value to 92.8 cents per $100 of assessed value, which would save the average taxpayer approximately $50 per year. In addition, the commissioners are also proposing a decrease in the income tax rate from 3% to 2.95%, effective January 1st, 2023, saving the average taxpayer approximately $29 per year. The proposed FY23 county budget is balanced based on these tax reductions. And with that, I'd like to turn this presentation over to Kelsey Mace, Interim Chief Financial Officer, for an overview of the county's operating and capital budget.
Thank you, John. The budget process spans from November through May of each year, passing through 3 major phases, including development, review and modification, and ultimately adoption. Financial forecasts, economic trends, policy review, and citizen input are all part of this process. Many of you are familiar with the county's largest fund, the general fund, since this is where taxpayer dollars are budgeted and accounted for. However, the county budgets for and operates 19 funds, comprised of more than 150 departments. Therefore, each year, county personnel review and budget over 2,800 account combinations before presenting the budget to the Board of County Commissioners. The general fund represents 83% of all operating funds and has a proposed fiscal year 23 budget of $262.8 million. A 5-year general fund budget history is shown on the top graph and represents approximately 3.5% increase per year. The capital budget is shown in the graph below and is $65.4 million for fiscal year 23. This budget fluctuates much more than our operating budgets and varies primarily due to construction schedules and the expectation of grants and other outside funding that is secured, such as developer contributions. The county has increased the general fund appropriation to the capital plan from $4 million in fiscal year 22 to $4.9 million in fiscal year 23, representing an additional $900,000. $500,000 of this appropriation is directly related to speed camera revenue, which services to support the Patrol Services Relocation Project. Once that project is complete, it is programmed to support patrol vehicle replacement. 96% of general fund revenue is derived from property taxes and local taxes. The top left graph represents property tax revenues, which is $135 million, or 51% of the total budget. This represents an increase of less than 1% over fiscal year 22, or $192,000, and is based on assessments from the State Department of Assessments and Taxation, offset by the proposed property tax rate reduction for fiscal year 23 to 92.8 cents per $100 of assessed value, representing a 2-cent reduction from the current rate of 94.8 cents per $100 of assessed value. The lower graph shows local tax revenue, the majority of which comes from the income tax and is $116.8 million and 45% of the budget. You can see on the graph a substantial increase over the fiscal year 22 budget. This is mainly due to large wage growth that has been seen over the last 2 years. As mentioned earlier, the Board of County Commissioners is proposing reducing the income tax rate from 3% to 2.95%, which would become effective January 1st, 2023. The top right graph, Charges for Services, represents approximately 2% of county revenues. Charges for Services remains relatively unchanged from fiscal year 22. The lower right graph represents Grants for Operations, which represents approximately 2% of the budget and fluctuates slightly from year to year. Grants for Operations remains relatively unchanged from fiscal year 22. The pie chart in front of you provides a snapshot of county priorities. For the fiscal year 23 budget, education and public safety activities combined represent 73%, or $190.2 million. The tax dollar can generally represent a slightly different percentage than the budget, since the tax dollar takes into consideration an offset for other revenues the county receives. It includes net expenditures to gain a true understanding of where your tax dollar goes. As you can see, 49% of your tax dollar is dedicated to education and 26% is dedicated to public safety. While a budget of $262.8 million is substantial, it's important to understand over half, or $138.5 million, is provided to organizations outside of government that provide services to our citizens. $17.3 million, or 7%, is transferred to other county funds, the majority of which is dedicated to capital or highway-related functions. Included in the $17.3 million is $4.9 million to capital and $9.3 million to highway. Debt service represents $15.3 million, or 6%, and is based on debt and amortization schedules. Wages and benefits represent 27%, or $71.3 million in costs. The county operates on the remaining 8%, or $20.4 million. The budget for fiscal year 23 increased by $10.9 million, and those changes are represented here by function. Major changes include $3.3 million more for education, $7.6 million more for public safety, $900,000 more for capital, offset by a reduction of $2.2 million in other due to operating reserves of $3.5 million in the fiscal year 22 budget that is not included in the fiscal year 23 budget. Instead of taking a look by function, we can pull out some of the costs more specifically. An enhanced salary scale for uniformed law enforcement officers was approved in fiscal year 22, which contributes to the fiscal year 23 increase. Appropriations for volunteer fire and rescue companies were increased to $100,000 per company. Public safety operations increased by $824,000, which mainly represents an increase in contracted services such as cleaning, inmate medical and food, software, and costs to operate the new police, fire, and emergency services training facility. The Board of Education is being provided $3.2 million more than fiscal year 22, and other outside entities an additional $406,000. Capital funding increase of $898,000 is being provided and supports projects such as stormwater retrofits, facilities roof repairs, highway vehicle and equipment replacement, public safety vehicles and portable radios, as well as matching funds to parks projects. The FY23 budget includes an additional $2 million for a step and COLA increase for employees, as well as $520,000 to provide a one-time COLA for retirees. Lastly, all other changes represent the remaining $1.5 million increase. The Highway Fund is one of our larger funds with a budget of $11.7 million. It is supported primarily by the General Fund with an appropriation of $9.3 million, and also anticipates approximately $2 million in highway user revenue. Highway user funds were reduced in 2010 by $7 million per year. The county received $9.1 million in 2007 and at its lowest received $400,000 in 2012. It is estimated that over the last 10 years, the county has lost around $70 million in highway user revenue. This has had a profound impact on the county and touches more than just the highway fund. Because general fund dollars supplanted the lost highway user revenue, those dollars were not able to fund other county priorities. The highway budget increased slightly due to wage and benefit increases and increased costs for salt and salt brine application. Wage and benefit increases were partially offset by budgeted vacancy savings. The county has 9 other governmental funds that total $8.9 million. There have been no major changes from the fiscal year 22 budget for these funds. The county has 5 enterprise funds, which include airport, transit, Black Rock Golf Course, solid waste, and water quality. The airport fund budget of approximately $2 million is currently self-supported and requires no appropriation from the general fund. It derives most of its revenue from corporate hangar and T-hangar rent. Expenditures increased approximately 7% related to increases in appropriations for capital projects and costs related to increases in the number of flights. The transit fund budget of approximately $2.9 million is supported heavily through federal and state grants of $1.3 million. The general fund does also subsidize the fund with an almost $1 million appropriation. The fund increased over fiscal year 22 by $100,000 related to wages and benefits and software costs. The golf course fund budget of approximately $1.2 million is supported mainly through golfing and restaurant revenues. However, a general fund contribution of $318,000 is required to balance the budget. The golf budget increased by 1% over fiscal year 22, mainly related to wage and benefit costs. The solid waste fund budget of $9 million is supported mainly through tipping fees of $7.5 million and permit fees of $900,000. The fund does receive a general fund appropriation of $450,000, which is used to fund closed sites that are currently not generating revenue and the recycling program. The budget did increase by approximately $680,000, which provides for wage and benefit increases, new lease agreements, leachate treatment, and maintenance costs. The water quality funds encompass the utility admin fund, water fund, sewer fund, and pre-treatment fund. They total $18.9 million and are mainly supported through utility and wholesale revenues. In total, the cost increased $93,000 over fiscal year 22, mainly due to increased debt service, offset by personnel savings. The budget does not include raising water and sewer rates in fiscal year 23. The budget for the water fund does include $230,000 contribution from the general fund. The sewer fund does not require a contribution at this time, but is drawn from cash reserves in the amount of $580,000 to balance the budget. Capital budgeting is a critical component in serving our citizens. The fiscal year 23 capital plan totals $65.4 million. 30% of the budget is attributed to education projects, 29% for roads, 17% for environmental, 10% for public safety, 2% for transportation, and 12% for other governmental projects. The fiscal year 23 capital plan includes $4 million in county funds for Board of Ed capital maintenance, $1 million for HCC's second entrance drive widening project, and $50,000 for the Williamsport Library replacement to conduct a feasibility study. Public safety projects include $1 million towards the construction of a burn building at the Public Safety Training Center grounds, which was partially funded in fiscal year 22. The total cost of the burn building is anticipated at $1.5 million. $875,000 was allocated to the P25 UHF Public Safety Radio Communication System upgrade. This project, which totals $10.2 million, will upgrade or replace components of the communication system for first responders. $872,000 is being allocated to law enforcement vehicle replacement. Emergency services vehicle and equipment replacement is being allocated $1.9 million, with $1.6 million of that being American Rescue Plan Act funds that were allocated for the replacement of self-contained breathing apparatuses. Major transportation projects include $4.3 million for pavement maintenance, which includes pavement preservation, repair and rehabilitation to include hot mix, asphalt overlays, patching, crack filling, and permanent pavement markings. In addition, Halfway Boulevard Extended, a $6.8 million project with $3.8 million provided in grant funds, will construct a 4-lane roadway extension. It is currently in design and is expected to begin construction in the spring of 23. $907,000 is being allocated for necessary equipment needed to maintain the county's roadways. Stormwater management continues to be a priority. The majority of funds in the stormwater project are dedicated to the construction of stormwater management systems. In fiscal year 23, $1 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds have been allocated to this ongoing effort. It also provides for the Clean County Sweeper program, which was implemented several years ago and has removed approximately 4 million pounds of debris to date. The capacity management project and Smithsburg Wastewater Treatment Plant are two major sewer projects budgeted in fiscal year 23. The capacity management project will construct a new regional pump station in the Mogginsville area, freeing up capacity for the city of Hagerstown. In fiscal year 23, $1 million in local funds are budgeted, as well as $4 million allocated in American Rescue Plan Act funds. The total budget for this project is $16.2 million. The Smithsburg Wastewater Treatment Plant will increase capacity for the town of Smithsburg to foster future development and is an $11.4 million project with $3 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds being allocated in fiscal year 23. The county currently enjoys an AA+ bond rating from rating agencies. This rating is extremely important for the county's ability to secure the best interest rate possible when issuing bonds. The rate provides confidence to investors and other stakeholders as it represents our solid financial position and strong fiscal policies.
That's the staff's general overview of the proposed budget. So if I'd ask the county commissioners to come up and take your seats, I'll turn this public hearing over to President Klein. I think he has instructions about how it's going to happen. If you haven't signed up to speak, there's still time to do that. I'll assume that at the end you'll ask if there's anybody else. So if you haven't signed up, there'll be an opportunity at the end to do so.
Thanks for being here. This is a public hearing concerning the proposed tax rates and county budget. We will now hear public comment, and the hearing will proceed in the following manner. We will take comments in order in which the individuals have signed in to speak. If you wish to speak but haven't yet signed, please do so in the lobby. Individuals be allowed a minimum of 3 minutes to testify. If you go 3 minutes and 5 seconds, I'm not going to cut you off. You want to hear your comments. This is our opportunity to hear your thoughts on the county's budget. It is not an interactive dialogue or a question and answer session. In the interest of time, if you agree with the position of someone who has previously testified, you may simply identify yourself and state that you agree with the prior speaker. We will then move on to the next speaker. You may only speak once during the evening. I'll call 2 names at a time, so while a person is speaking, the next person can make his or her way to the microphone. Please be respectful and use appropriate decorum. We thank you for actively participating in the process. First scheduled speaker, Michael Piercy. Dave Williams on deck.
Good evening, commissioners. Wanted to thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity. Wanted to take a moment and just thank you for the support that you have offered the Washington County Department of Social Services and the Washington County Child Support Program. I'm the director of the Washington County Department of Social Services. Want to express appreciation and support for our Child Support Dad's Connection Apprenticeship program. This is where we are giving the opportunities for non-custodial parents, mothers and fathers, to get on-the-job training from employers. Right now we've got a great opportunity in our county. We've got warehouses being built. We've got employers saying we need to hire people, and this is a true return on investment. You know, we're not interested in giving people jobs, we're interested in giving people a life. And when you can reward or help someone and give them the hand up they need to get a job so that they take pride in themselves, they can connect with their children and feel a part of the community, have a purpose, that's more than the small investment of the $44,000 that you've committed to this program. And so I just want to say thank you guys for that. And thank you. So have a great one.
Thank you, Mr. Piercy. Next up, Dave Williams, on deck, Anna Maria Hines.
Good evening, Commissioners. Just for transparency's sake, I am a candidate for County Commissioner, and I happen to be married to a member of the Board of Education. I am also a 40-year retiree from Washington County Public Schools and an advocate for public education. Before you finalize the FY23 budget, please show that you value public education by restoring the $1.6 million you cut before even hearing the Board of Education's budget presentation. The BOE budget, as originally requested, is a 4.41% increase over FY22. With an annual inflation rate well over 8%, they're already losing buying power without even considering the $1.6 million shortfall. The school system faces a staffing crisis at all employee levels, similar to what you've seen in the Sheriff's Department. Raises are needed to attract and retain good teachers, administrators, bus drivers, custodians, and ESPs. In addition to raises, the $1.6 million would help fund 5.5 new positions. There would be a counselor in every elementary school, 2 additional social workers, and 2 more English learner teachers. The big question is, why won't you fully fund the budget? It's not because you can't fund it. At your May 10th meeting, I gave you several suggestions how to do it. I know other individuals have also suggested ways to fully fund the school budget. And when you're looking at a 16 to 20 million surplus, it can be done. Are there reasons you believe it shouldn't be fully funded? Do you not believe the needs are real? Do you not believe the numbers? Surely you can have some trust in the budget request of a superintendent born and raised in the county who's devoted his 40-year career to the children of Washington County. Surely you can believe what you've heard from many of the teachers and other school employees. Do you not realize the positive impact an excellent school system has on economic development? Do you not see that by valuing education, you'll send a positive message to prospective businesses in search of good employees? The question remains, why won't you fully fund the budget? Hopefully, after careful reconsideration, when you finalize the budget, you will fully fund it. If so, then thank you very much. But if you don't have any plans to fully fund the budget, and your minds aren't open to even the possibility, please make that crystal clear to us, along with an explanation as to why, with a 16 to 20 million surplus, you can't, why you won't, and why you think you shouldn't. A quick note off the script about the tax cut. $80, that's less than $7 a month for the tax cut. Please take my $80 tax savings and put it towards fire and EMS, put it towards the schools, maybe take a couple more seniors off the waiting list for Meals on Wheels. I don't need the $80 tax cut. Thank you.
Good evening, County Commissioners. My name is Hines, and I'm the President of Washington County Educational Support Personnel, representing the ESP workers of the Board of Education. The ESPs are the bus drivers, the paraprofessionals, food service workers, maintenance and custodians, clerical, and tech. I would probably describe us as the backbone of the system, the gears that keep the chains moving. But those descriptions could be used by almost any group of workers that comes before you looking for their fair share of county funds. In our case, however, students physically would not get to school. They would not be enrolled, they would not eat, they would not learn, and the buildings they occupy would be in filth and disrepair. We are part of the largest employer in the county and a significant population of your county residents. We are essential. As you look out over the landscape of the county you manage, I am expecting that you are familiar with the current labor market. Amazon, Foods, FedEx, UPS, the multitude of warehouses up and down 81, and the retail in our county and surrounding areas are providing wages and benefits the likes of which workers have not seen in a generation or more. Pay is a very high starting wage, guaranteed annual or more increases, bonuses, medical, dental, vision, vacation, sick leave. Every week, there is yet another salary number thrown out or a new benefit, and it's all in on the worker bidding war. Then you have the Board of Education ESP. We have received a 4% wage increase for the last 3 years. When you cannot pay, you will not get workers. This concept is so simple and the root of the problem at WCPS, yet the struggle remains. As of today, and this is not for next year, this is for this school year, as of today, in May, there are 42 para vacancies, 22 maintenance and custodial vacancies, 9 transportation, 8 food service, and 12 student support. That is a total of 93 vacancies. And what happens to WCPS when you cannot pay and don't get workers? This means that students, the children of Washington County, may not get picked up by a bus. They may not have the meals and the clean buildings they deserve. They will definitely not have the instructional help they need, let alone the necessary equipment with which to learn. The current worker shortage at WCPS is unsustainable. It affects the students' ability to learn by not providing paraprofessionals. It affects their health by not providing clean environments. It affects their safety and well-being when there is not enough staff in a school. Fully funding the WCPS budget request is not about money. There is money available to fully fund the request. Further, the request is not unreasonable. The BOE is slated for a less than 3% increase. That is the lowest funding increase for any department in the county. And this is not something new. The county has not been fully funding the BOE for years and years. The time has long since passed to move on. We are falling behind when it comes to funding our school system. Many, many years ago, one only had to speak of across the river for examples of what schools and communities were like due to underfunding. Now those communities have drastically increased their per pupil spending, created neighborhoods with new schools, and as a result, a booming tax base. Meanwhile, across the river, we've been labeled a low-effort county for at least the past 5 years. The decision to underfund the BOE year after year after year has led us here. The private sector is exerting its financial muscle, and as a result, WCPS is strained to a breaking point. There are only 2 questions that remain. Who is going to fix this, and who isn't? Thank you.
We now conduct an announcement. Terry Muniz is up next, and on deck is Carlos Olak. Terry Muniz.
My question's already been answered.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, Carlos Olak. On deck, Carol Mallon.
Good evening. Thank you for your service, first and foremost. My name is Carlos Millat. I'm the UNISERV Director assigned to the Washington County Teachers Association. I'm also a taxpayer and parent of 2 kids in Washington County Public Schools. My opinions and comments here are my own. I'm here to encourage you to fully fund the WCPS budget. In October, I sent you all a letter inviting you to visit our schools for American Education Week. I also followed up with an in-person invitation at the Commissioner meeting on October 19th. President Klein respectfully declined, and Mr. Burkett accepted my invitation, visiting Clear Spring High School and Eastern Elementary School. For that, I'm grateful. You don't need an invitation from me to visit our schools or any other public services. Respectfully, if you're only making the decision about funding the budget based on staffing reports and spreadsheets, and you're not in the buildings, then you're not making a fully informed decision. You must get into the schools and spend time with staff and students. Only a lived experience will help you truly understand what is happening in our schools beyond budget line items. The time is now to make sure that educators have the resources they need to provide a quality public education to our students. Currently, they're doing the best they can with what they've been given, and what they've been given isn't enough. Educators are burned out, attempting to meet the needs of students with limited staffing and resources from an underfunded budget. In fact, they're so burned out that they're leaving, not only WCPS, but the education profession. You don't give a brain surgeon a butter knife, so why do we give educators large class sizes, minimal space, limited planning time, too much testing time, and a reduced staffing complement to deal with the behaviors and social emotional needs of students? No other profession must go and buy their own supplies to do their job. In fact, I would argue that because of our lack of funding, we as a community, including parents, students, and teachers, are supplementing the school system budget and have been doing so for at least a decade. For years, the Washington County Commissioners have received a low-effort designation from the state of Maryland. No amount of Chipotle burritos can raise enough money to make sure we have schools that students and staff deserve. No amount of educator nights will draw enough families to go to McDonald's and make enough purchases so that McDonald's, who makes billions, will give a portion of their sales to any one of our schools. No amount of Joe Corby's pizza sold by students will ensure that we have a full-time counselor at every school. No amount of Yankee Candle sales will ensure that every music program will be funded. It's really challenging for us to come back here year after year and beg you all to fully fund the budget. What are we doing? What are our priorities? We have 2 or 3 Amazon warehouses, but I still have schools with teachers teaching in closets and on stages because we can't afford portables. We have sheets on every corner, but we don't have a full-time counselor in every school. We may not have enough paraprofessionals, custodians, and nurses working at WCPS to support the needs of students, but at least we're going to have 2 Chick-fil-A's. Our decisions have consequences. And one example might be with the warehouses. They will come in and they'll bring jobs that pay $25 an hour with few benefits. But when they're doing that, they're also taking jobs. Currently, WCPS has 93 ESP openings. 42 of those are parapro positions. Those are positions that work directly with students. No one is going to work for WCPS for $13, $15, $18, or even $20 an hour when Amazon, P&G, and FedEx are paying over $23. I have teachers who since the beginning of the year come to me begging for more staff, more bodies to help them with behaviors and instructional interventions. But help is not on the way because again, our budget is going to be underfunded. Years of underfunding our schools has helped exacerbate a teacher staffing crisis and a mental health crisis after the shared trauma of the pandemic. Our children are struggling. Our schools are struggling to meet the needs of a broken society. If we want to secure a positive future for our children and our community, we must have fully funded schools. Frederick Douglass said it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Please spend time in our schools and fully fund our schools. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to provide public comment at this public budget hearing. My name is Carol Mallon, and I'm a teacher at Washington County Technical High School. I'm also currently serving as the Vice President of the Washington County Teachers Association, and I'm here to urge you to consider your funding allocation for the Washington County Board of Education in the county budget. I have had to abridge my comments tonight. I'll be sure to send you an email of the complete set here at the end of tonight. To prepare my comments this evening, I watched your recent State of the County presentation, reviewed several articles from the local newspaper, and visited your website to learn about your vision and mission for the county. As educators, we know the power of visioning statements and mission-oriented planning to achieve our goals. In May of 2020, the Washington County Teachers Association adopted 6 belief statements that contain our vision for public education in Washington County. Our first 2 statements are foundational to your roles as elected officials and our roles as citizens of the United States. Number 1, free, quality, equitable, and accessible public education is a fundamental civil right that is vital to sustaining and improving democracy. Number 2, young people, regardless of who they are, where they are from, what they can do, or what they believe, must be educated in the skills and mindsets needed to be responsible, productive, and healthy humans and citizens. We teach our students to read, to write, to think critically, to understand history, to accept responsibility for their actions, and to appreciate the contributions that a culturally diverse population provides to our schools and communities. In these ways, they can become active, informed voters when they reach adulthood. We want to cooperate with you to provide efficient and effective public schools to meet the needs of families, communities, and businesses of Washington County. The State of the County report noted many accomplishments and challenges. According to the budget information provided, in April of 2021, the Board of County Commissioners decreased the income tax rate from 3.2% to 3.0% effective January 1, 2022, setting up the county to receive a significant amount of surplus from the change. In fact, according to some sources, you anticipate, as mentioned earlier, a $16 to $20 million surplus this year. In addition, according to the April 16th Herald Mail article, you are now proposing to reduce the property tax rate by 2 cents per $100 of assessed value. That 2-cent tax break, if approved in this budget, will result in a reduction of over $3 million in revenue on top of the already anticipated surplus. While I can appreciate the intent to provide lower taxes for homeowners and businesses, the schools that serve the children and grandchildren of these homeowners and train the employees for these businesses are in need of full funding to meet students' mental, physical, and educational needs. Why not maintain the current property tax rate and provide at least $1.6 million of it to fully fund the Board of Education's requested budget? Or allocate the additional $1.6 million in funding from the surplus already anticipated from the 2021 decrease in the income tax rate. In addition, the State of County Video reported that Washington County is slated to receive a total of $29.4 million from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. You've used this funding to provide premium pay for county employees, premium pay for fire and rescue company employees and volunteers, as well as funding for other needed infrastructure projects. The double-digit pay increases to address these staffing shortages in the Sheriff's Department are well-deserved, and the hiring of approximately 40 paid firefighters and paramedics was also definitely needed. While I wholeheartedly support investing in emergency services, given your surplus from tax decreases and the ARPA funding, you do not have to choose between fully funding public education and fully funding the other necessary and important departments of the county. You can do both. Your current draft budget underfunds the budget request of the Washington County Board of Education by $1.6 million this year. This in a year when the county is projected to have that surplus is disheartening to those of us who work in public education in this county. However, your underfunding of public education is not a new trend. Washington County has received that designation of low-effort funder for many years, and this has puzzled me. Each of you has benefited from the educational services provided by the Washington County Public Schools, all as graduates of our area high schools, and one of you, Mr. Baker, as a retired WCPS employee. I believe, according to your bios, Mr. Klein and Mr. Baker graduated from Williamsport, Mr. Kiefer from Hancock Middle Senior High, Mr. Wagner from North High, and Mr. Burkett from Clear Spring. You may believe, therefore, that you understand what educators do each day to teach the children, youth, and young adults of Washington County. I can assure you, however, that the challenges we are facing as educators today are not like the ones of even 5 or 10 years ago. Just ask your children or your grandchildren, or schedule a visit to have lunch with a teacher. The changing political landscape and culture wars have put educators on the front lines of polarizing issues that, quite frankly, discourage many from entering the field of teaching, and make those of us who are teachers consider whether or not we can retire early, or, if early enough in our careers, leave education altogether. In addition, the increasing pace of technology and expectations to do more with less impact us every day. In the past 2 years, we worked through the pandemic to provide virtual classrooms for students who had access to broadband technology and home environments that could support their online learning, and we struggled to meet the needs of students who did not have digital access or a safe, quiet place to learn. We learned how to navigate our required online platforms, we returned to our classrooms empty, and then met new challenges of concurrent teaching. This year, we are glad to be back in our classrooms. However, the effects of the pandemic on students' mental health, maturity level, and educational achievement are more challenging than ever before. And so, in this year, it's time to invest in education. It's time to leave the low-effort funding era. It's time to provide the necessary funding to fully staff our schools so that we can be a partner with you in your mission to support and strengthen, and I quote from your statement, individual and community self-reliance and responsibility by, quote, promoting education, economic opportunities, public health, safety, and welfare, protecting the environment and cultural resources we share, and planning for a future urbanization and a culturally diverse population. That's directly from your website. Our work as educators in our schools provides the county with one of the places where our culturally diverse population meets and begins to understand each other. As educators, we also teach the foundational skills necessary for citizens to be engaged in the democratic process so that Washington County can achieve your vision for the county's future, and I quote, to become a regional leader in providing and coordinating efficient and effective public services in an open and cooperative manner. Your own State of the County report noted that the county's work revolves around the concept of RISE, which represents resilience, innovation, service, and engagement. These 4 key concepts are also what drives us in education, and the last 2 years have proven that we have risen to the occasion. But as one of our former superintendents used to say, what gets resourced gets accomplished. We cannot continue to rise up to meet the challenges without adequate funding from our county. In summary, I urge you to change your stance regarding your funding decisions for the Board of Education's request this year. I urge you to reverse the low effort trend, not just for this year, but for the years ahead as well. I urge you to remember that we must prepare our students for their futures, not our past, and this requires a change in how we provide for public education. Together we can cooperate to promote education. If you choose to do so, you can provide the funding levels we need to ensure that Washington County Public Schools can attract and retain high-quality staff, provide safe and clean learning environments for our children, youth, and young adults, and ensure academic achievement of our culturally diverse student population to meet the ever-changing and ever-challenging landscape of tomorrow. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Olak, the CEO of the Washington County Commission on Aging, and I just want to take a minute and thank all of you for your support and services and for the very competent staff that you have working for the county who has really stepped up to support us during the pandemic. We were deemed essential and were never closed during the entire pandemic and saw the need rise across the county for seniors, caregivers, and those with disabilities. Many of you took the time to volunteer to help deliver meals, help run a vaccination clinic, support us through donations of shelf-stable products. And we certainly couldn't serve this growing demand without the support of the community or the county commissioners. We are very thankful for your support and continued support as we create a plan together to support the fastest growing segment of our population, seniors. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Evan Mallow, and I'm a 5th grader at Lincolnshire Elementary School. I'd like to talk to you about why you should fully fund the school board budget. As you know, I fully support the county commissioners, and I know that you have it in you to do the right thing. A fully funded education budget is important to me because many school buildings are not up to date. We need improved safety measures and security. Technology is always changing, and we need to keep up with that too. It will help us with our test scores, our grades, and future job opportunity. Finally, kids need all the support they can get. I want to give you an example. Earlier this year, my friends and I were experiencing bullying. It took us so long to have the courage to go to the counselors, but when we did, it helped a lot. If we don't have counselors in every school in Washington County, the kids will never get all the support they need to be successful. You have the money available. Please don't let us kids down. Thank you and good night.
Evan was the last scheduled speaker. Before we close, is there someone who hasn't spoken that would like to come forward? Seeing none, we close our meeting. Thank you all very much.